Watching Juan and Fredo try to fix everybody's common, simple mistakes that everyone makes when they're mining. Number one problem, breakdowns. Because all the money seems to be spent in the wrong places in the wrong way because, well, you're not miners. You picked up a book and the book told you how things are supposed to work. Well, guess what? They don't work that way. And gold's not where it's supposed to be, it's where you find it. Okay? My belief is anyone, even on a small scale, you don't need a fucking backhoe, okay? And dump trucks and all this, you don't need that to make uh, a decent amount of gold for an individual where you're not paying for all kinds of outrageous equipment all the time, right? Um, it's a lifestyle. Now, if you think you can buy a bunch of heavy equipment and just go and make a bunch of money in gold because it's in the ground, well, people have been doing that for a long time. And everywhere where it's supposed to be, people have been there first. So I recommend people doing dry work up in the old deposits, up in the hillsides, or metal detecting. If you don't mind being wet all the time and you're really, really comfortable in the water, like we were, then even a small dredge, if you know where to look and you're safe and you function properly, it's a lifestyle. You're not going to get rich. It's as simple as that. But if you don't want to work for someone else, um, my mom, before she passed away, and Bill and Betty, her friends, they would go to Arizona and metal detect when it was cold up at Quincy, or they'd go to Washington and pick mushrooms for a while. They were just vagabonds. They just kind of made their way around. They had retirement checks and they just, Social Security, and that's all they needed because they were really happy. That was it. They were happy doing what they were doing. They had no bosses. They each of them had their own trailer set up, and yeah, you just need a good running, strong, powerful 4-wheel drive truck and a small trailer, and anybody can make a living in the United States collecting minerals and gold. I firmly believe that. You just need a few years of experience to figure out who's pulling your leg, who knows what they're talking about, who doesn't. No one's going to tell you where they pick up $100 bills. People used to ask me, "Where do you mine?" And I said, "Well, if you knew where there were $100 bills on the ground, and all you had to do was go move a bunch of rocks to get to them, would you tell anybody?" You see, that's miners lie more than fishermen. A fisherman will tell you he caught a 90 pounder, and a miner will say, "I didn't get much, maybe just enough for some rice." They both lie, it's just in opposite directions. It's an interesting lifestyle. It really is. It's an interesting lifestyle. I'd say it's not for everybody, but in reality, that healthy, to me, it seemed like they were very happy, other than having to deal with other people. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. It's not like it was, when we were allowed in the river with an 8-inch dredge, and then a 5-inch dredge, and then a 4-inch dredge, and then a 3-inch dredge. You have to remember that every rock that won't go up that tube has to be moved by hand. And it just became too much effort. That was it. Um, we focused on very deep, heavily buried, lots of big rocks, uh, where no one has been before. You see, if you go up and down the rivers, you'll see all these piles of rocks on the sides of the rivers go up the Feather River, you'll see all these rocks piled up. But you see, all the great big rocks, the ones they couldn't move, are still down in the river. And so if they didn't, and this because if they didn't bother to put the little ones back, why would they have bothered to put all the big ones back? Well, the big ones never got moved. And whenever you had lots of big rocks stacked on top of one another, that's a pretty good find right there. Because there's going to be gold in there. It's just how much. But there's going to be gold in there. If you have a big, deep gold trap that's full of big rocks, and the material that's in between the rocks, you could hit it with a screwdriver. It was like concrete. This shit was so packed. It was so hard and packed in there, Ancient. So 400,000 years ago, there was a large series of eruptions, and all the volcanoes here were all pretty active. And we had fires and things, and you would get these waves of material washed in, and then there would be times where it was bare. And when it was bare from the fires, just like today, you get mudslides, this kind of thing, and that's how you get all your new deposits. Okay, it just doesn't wash out of the hills every year when it rains like people think. It doesn't fucking happen that way. It takes many, 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 many years for nature to put some gold back in a spot once it's been removed. Okay? Because it doesn't like to move. Your best bet is finding something that no one's been to before. This is why I recommend going up on the higher benches where people haven't been working, because it's dry. People like working around water, and they don't like climbing up hills. And working dry material is really nasty and dirty and not fun. But that's where the gold is. Other than that, get a metal detector and go to the beach and become a treasure hunter. You know what I mean? If you find anything that's man-made, from a silver dime to a pull tab on a can, then you have to leave. You have to have the mental discipline to leave, because if you're going to go up on those old benches and metal detect for gold, and you can find some decent pieces of gold up there, it's work. You just need a good, strong, powerful detector. You don't even need a discriminator. But I would suggest one nowadays. When I was selling gold bug metal detectors 20 years ago, they weren't as well designed as they are now. So a discriminator would be okay, but I prefer lots of power and then not being anywhere where you're finding square nails. You see, up on those old benches, that's 50,000 years ago. There shouldn't be anything human up there. And if you're finding human artifacts up there, people have been up there, and it's time to leave. Simple as that. You take your metal detector when no one's been before. Okay, those hills got walked by every Irish and Chinese and American and Indian and Incan and everyone else, okay, for a long time. Those Indians came up from South America to walk the streams and the rivers of Northern California and pick up the gold that was just laying there. Can you imagine what the deposits looked like when you had a big old crack that was like maybe 5 inches wide and 20 inches deep, just filled to the top with gold? Because the rivers ran clean. They weren't all fucked up. The humans did that. When you see serpentine bedrock, green bedrock, that's from water running over it, okay? And it all looked like that with deep holes, okay? And, well, unfortunately, humans, we fuck everything up we put our hands on. And now they're full of gravel and muck and mercury, and that's another story, too, about me and the Sierra Club going at it over who was doing what to what river. The guy, he was totally unprepared and had no idea how much mercury that miners, mom and pops operations, pull out of the rivers every year. And how dangerous some of these old mining areas are, where the old miners would just cook that shit off in a frying pan over a fire, that mercury would vaporize, it would go up into the atmosphere and immediately condense again and fall onto the ground. And that's why they were all bald with no teeth, okay? These guys were constantly sick. That's what it's from. So some of these areas are highly contaminated. It's viable if you don't mind the lifestyle. Even two people, a partnership, okay? If you get along, I suggest it's opposite sex or whatever, and because if it's not going to be a romantic setup, it's very difficult for a man and a woman to go and because all the bitching that happens, you know what I mean? Uh, there's a lot you can do to get by without working a 9-to-5 job, but it is a lifestyle. You're not going to get rich, but anybody can go find enough gold to feed themselves. Guarantee you that. If you're willing to move rocks and run a little manual sluice box, okay, you can make enough gold to eat. That shit's $2,000 an ounce sometimes now, okay? When I was doing it, it was $226 an ounce. So, yeah, a little bit of a difference in economics. Okay, I'm going to get back to the show here. That's just, I get asked all the time. I had people that wanted me to, just come and spend the summer and teach us all how to do it, 5 or 6 guys. And I'm like, man, okay, this is what I want. I want you all to go home and watch Treasure of the Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart. That's what I want you to do, okay? 5, 6 of you, whatever, go watch it. And then come back and tell me that you want to go gold mining. And that would usually change the mind of a couple of them, because I said, that is how people get, okay? I have seen it ruin friendships, galore, brothers fighting one another. It's you get the fever so easy, especially if you're finding gold. It always starts out, well, we'll just put it in one big pile, right? And then at the end of the day, everybody wants to have their own gold in a jar that they can flick around, that they're earning, just like a paycheck, you know what I mean? If you're going to hold all the gold to the end of the season, that's a major operation. That's how it should be done in a major operation. What I always suggest, if there's going to be a small group of people that are mining together, is that it gets divided up every time it's weighed. Okay, everybody gets whatever percentage it is they're getting. If it's equal, it's equal. And then you start nitpicking over certain little itty-bitty little pieces that have a certain shape you like. You would be blown away at how people will get over which exact piece they get. Okay, because all the little chips have a personality. They're all different. Nature made every one of them different. It's crazy. Split it up every day. If you split it up every day, nobody can say anything, you know what I mean? This is see the whale? You see the whale? So everybody fought over that one. Everybody wanted the whale. Everybody wants the whale. It's funny. They'll all have little personalities to them, and you'll see them in a jar. You'll have a jar of nuggets, and you'll be able to recognize all kinds of little individuals in there. It's weird. But people get the fever, and they get stupid, and I'm just going to sell everything I own and go gold mining. I've seen that so many times, and I don't want to be responsible for that. And I've seen friends do it. And then, successful or not successful, you seem to be the cause. So they're either thankful or they fucking hate you because you turned them into gold nuts. So it's kind of weird. As an individual lifestyle, like people that do go and get gemstones, it's exactly the same thing. You see how hard they work. You see how hard they work. It's not easy. Moving rocks is what they make you do in prison, okay? It's not It's not some glorious, wonderful, even if you have giant machinery and shit, people are working, you know, 12, 18 hours a fucking day sometimes. So, you know, they're, that's a corporation, that's a company, right? Where they have to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ounces just to pay for fuel. For me, personally, I look at that as a pillaging of the land. Even though they put it back the way it was, it'll never be the way it was because the wealth of that land has been decimated. And it's just put 1 million tons of carbon into the atmosphere running all that heavy gear. I don't see it as a win. I think every individual should, and you can, okay, listen, you can still file claims on property in the United States and for more than just gold. You can do it for gravel, all kinds of things, okay? So really you should look into that. If you want to file land claims in the United States, you can still do that. That was one of the things that I taught people, geez, 20 years ago. No, even longer, 28 years ago. Nah, 25 years ago. 25 years ago. That was when I ran an ad in the LA Times. And I had all kinds of people showed up, including 3 guys in the front that looked just like fucking IRS agents. Because in the ad I said tax-free. I said tax-free. Make a tax-free living. These guys, I swear to God, they look like fucking Joe Friday. It was so obvious who they were, taking notes and everything, and everybody else is just an everyday person, just thinking, I'd like to go try this, you know what I mean? And the whole point was to set them up with people who would own a dredge. That's when you could run a 5-inch dredge, and people who would work on the dredge for you. And the hard part was finding people to work on the dredge with you. Okay, because if you're going to make this investment and buy these big Keen dredges with big Honda motors and shit and all the gear, you know, you're talking about a $35,000 investment, then you want to get your money back. And see, that's where the gold problem is at, and why I just said fuck it in the end. I just said this isn't worth it. It ruins too many relationships, okay? These clowns in the front, they had no idea that gold was not money. First off, they didn't know that gold in a placer form is not money and is non-taxable. What? Yeah, it's considered a specimen. It's a geological specimen. It's not, once we went off the gold standard, that gold is valueless. It's a specimen. It's not in bullion. Hasn't been purified at a refinery and turned into gold bullion, okay? It's specimen. And the gold that we got, what I just showed you, that shit assayed out well over 98, 99% pure. So that's why it's that beautiful color. You know what I mean? Depends on the extra shit that's mixed in with it. I guess there's every level, from the guy who just is going to go have a pan on his back. And then there's the people who are going to get a little trailer to live in and maybe a little manual sluice box where you're just shoveling dirt in by hand. And then the next step up is to have a dredge, right? A floating dredge and an air compressor and all that stuff. And you definitely don't want to do that alone, because too many idiots got in trouble because they didn't know what the angle of incidence was and ended up having a rock fall on them and drowned. That's the problem with work underwater, is people tend to put the rock right here when it should go right there. See? And you end up with a hole that's too steep, and it just keeps getting deeper, and you're finding more gold. You tend to keep going deeper, and that's when you get into serious trouble. So it's dangerous too. The heavier the gear, the more shit can smash you or drown you or kill you in some way, okay? Or kill yourself. It's every level, from the guy with the pan all the way up. And to tell you the truth, I see the people that have like a little trailer, good running truck. I mean, you have to be prepared, and you should have some kind of income, right? Unemployment, something, okay? So that you can pay for gas and food and not be stressed out, because otherwise, why do it? if you're going to be stressed and not free to think and be, okay, then why do it? You want to write a book? Great lifestyle for that. Okay, you want to educate yourself? Great lifestyle for that. You can read till your heart's content, okay? Especially you get out in the middle of nowhere. Reading is much more fun, uh, I always found, outdoors. What else? That's about it. Watch Treasure. If you and five, like all the stuff that I watch here with Fred and Juan doing the gold rescue, not Parker's kind of shit, because that's a corporation, okay? But the smaller groups that Juan and Fred, when they go and fix these small groups, you know what I mean? Um, that's right at the point where it starts becoming, you need to make it a business, and it's not a lifestyle anymore. And now you're settled in one spot. You got a big trauma running. You need to run equipment, and now you're stuck. From that point on, as far as I'm concerned, gold is just not worth hassling for. If you're not going to do it to be free, why do it at all? You know what I mean? And that's the honest God truth. You can't get the fever and just, oh, fuck, there's free money on the ground, because it's not free. There's rocks laying on it, dirt laying on it, okay? Or it's up on a hillside where it's all dusty and nasty and you're having to dig through all kinds of shit. Or you're walking for, 50 miles looking for nuggets with a metal detector. It's not easy, but you can feed yourself, pay the bills, you know what I mean? Have a cell phone, you know what I mean? Have gas and food and do what you want to do, you know what I mean? Living accommodations, that's the main thing. The guy with just a pan, he's going to have a backpack and that's it. And again, up from there you go. So, you can pick a lifestyle that works for you. You can move with the weather, because you can have claims in a shitload of states. You can get a claim in Arizona, claim in Oregon, Washington, California. Just look up under the BLM regulations for that. BLM won't be much help, by the way. All right, that's it. That's about all I can tell you with gold. People ask me all the time, and I'm like, not that complicated. Okay? All miners lie, right? And gold is not where it's supposed to be. It's where you find it.